You know what? I have to agree. I think that was my favorite moment of the episode too, mainly because I was on the fence with some of kind of how I felt about things after episode four. We saw like Monica sprawled out with the "It's all Wanda," and I was like, is it really all Wanda? Are we really getting the all Wanda situation right now? Is she not being manipulated by someone else at all? Um,
Sure.
After seeing her stroll through that portal or that barrier, and she's just looking pretty bad. She's looking like she's got some pretty big villain vibes going on.
Sure, absolutely.
It's been interesting. I don't know if part of it is because they're trying to throw us off on purpose. We got another 4 episodes left,
Yeah, there's a ways to
but
go.
she looked like she was prepared to kill everyone there if that was what needed to be done. And then
Right.
hearing them say like having her talk to Vision, and Vision clearly saying these people here are in pain, Wanda. Like you're not just controlling them, you're hurting them at the same time to make this happen. And have her like completely just not care. She did not care at all about what was going on with any of those people at the time. And the thing that makes it creepy to me, uh, in my opinion, what's really spooky about it is that when Vision mentions that there's no children in the
Oh
town,
yeah, yeah.
and you think about there's like 3,500 people in this town, right? That Wanda's controlled. How many of them have families? And where are the kids?
Where are the kids? Exactly.
Are they
And
wandering around outside of the town right now without memory of their parents? Because
or
I
did
don't
they
know,
escape? Who knows?
did they escape or are they just out here in some cave somewhere?
You know,
You
there's a
know?
there's a there's a big moment too, right when the kids first transform to what 5-year-olds or whatever, where Agatha is just sitting there talking about kids you can't control them no matter how hard you try. It's like that little tidbit there, you know, kind of speculates what Vision was trying to say towards the end of the episode with the kids. Like, can Wanda only control the adults? Are there other kids? Who knows?
Yeah, and we of course we have to get into the children themselves because I mean I'm sure you could probably share a little bit of background for people that don't know who these twins are because I'm sure some folks might be considering them just to be oh they're Wanda's children. I did talk to a few people and they didn't understand. Um, oh sorry, screen share popped up for some reason. But they didn't understand that Wanda's children were controlling the scene when she was having the birth, like when they transformed the butterflies and stuff like that. Folks thought that was
Okay.
Wanda doing it. They didn't understand it with the kids doing that because they didn't
Hmm.
have the background about what the kids are.
Right.
Do you have any info you like to share about the children?
Well, we're talking about just their origins in general, what they do, or
I mean, just a little synopsis of maybe their origin or anything interesting about them.
so it's interesting because it just ties into some other spec, right? That's out there, especially with Billy, aka Wiccan, as his superhero name is called. So these two characters weren't around until about 2005 time period when they became staples, right? And it wasn't until later where there was this tie-in saying that because Billy was just somebody else's kid, and he later on found Tommy, aka Speed, to be his like long lost twin. So Billy would go to is a mutant, right? They're mutants, and would go to Avengers Mansion, and he always said, in his for some reason he always had in his mind that Wanda Scarlet Witch was his favorite Avenger. So through some weird play again with who we brought up earlier, Franklin Richards and Mephisto, which people were speculating, is has some sort of tie-in with this whole WandaVision show. There's a big power play between Wiccan, Mephisto, and Scarlet Witch. So we're kind of trying to figure out if that's something happening here regarding the children.
Yeah, I think that Wiccan's a pretty well known character for a lot of comic fans, especially like in the LGBTQ community as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
So
Yep, because
he's
he just got
definitely
married to Hulkling.
Yeah, exactly. Had a huge like high profile wedding as well in the MCU. Well, I guess like regular comic book universe. So I'm sure they want to bring in those characters for like a Young Avengers style plan at some point. I don't
They
see
have
why
to
they
because
want it if they're
they're
building
already
all
doing
this up.
So they're already doing it somewhat because in the Hawkeye Disney Plus show they casted Kate Bishop, right? Kate Bishop is one of those young Avengers. So, you know,
Yeah, the lineup's looking pretty
you-
solid. They've got Kate Bishop. They've got Miss Marvel coming.
that's right. Yep.
Cassie Lang could pop up at some point. I think she's going to be in Ant-Man 3.
True.
So toss in these two. You got a pretty solid squad to start off there. Probably maybe throw in two more at some point. A little MCU show. That'd be pretty sweet. So the twins for me are interesting because we get this situation where Wanda can't control them, like you
Right.
mentioned earlier, and they just age themselves up from being basically in a crib to walking around and running on their own. And I think that probably in the next episode or two, we're going to see full blown teenagers at this point because it was a little scary. Of course, when they lose their puppy dog, Wanda's
Oh,
like, no, 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 don't you age up again, because she knew what was going to happen. So
Right.
it kind of brings me into a situation where I've been wondering, since we can tell that, like even Pete here in chat says like the kids aren't real, right? But if the kids aren't real, why do they have agency in comparison to Wanda and what she's been controlling inside of the universe? And also, where are
Right.
they getting? Where is she getting the material or the soul to kind of build these kids from?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
we've established, from earlier in the episode when we were chilling with Monica and the rest of the gang, that she's been able to manipulate the materials that make them into what she needs for whatever they're doing in the world. Which you saw with Wanda's clothing and the bulletproof vest being transformed into the 70s outfit she had on. But she's manipulating those materials to create the world that she needs to use. And when it comes to people, she's manipulating them directly, but she's not able to create them.
For sure. And when they showed that scene of her breaking into Sword too, which I thought was interesting that it wasn't mentioned until this episode that happened. It was like, oh, that's kind of like a big thing you should have told Monica early on. Like, this is how she took Vision. But what else did she take, right? So we only know that she took Vision, but she could have been prepping all this other stuff, to set up her hex.
That's true. I mean, she did have some time to think about it after Endgame. I
Yeah.
also wonder how she found out he was there.
I wonder if they're going to do a flashback scene of her, like, coming back, because she definitely vanished, right, at the end of
Yeah, that's
Infinity.
true. She was part of the blip as well.
Yeah.
So she definitely popped back in the same way everyone else did. So all that's hitting her right now in this moment, like she basically popped in, got pissed off at Thanos, had to remember her husband's dead, and then all the Avengers are wiped out or dipping off and doing other things. So it's got to be a rough time for her. Plus, I'm curious to see how she found out about Sword in the first place, because up until this point we haven't really seen Sword mentioned at all.
Right.
Or that they had Sword, like the Sword was the one that got control of his body over, say, a different entity. I'm surprised that what's his name didn't fly in and steal his body. Our favorite general. Surprised he was like, I need to work on some vision stuff to take out Hulk and bring him
General
down in
Ross.
here. Yeah, good old General Ross.
I mean, there's some spec with him too, like getting some more screen time somewhere within the MCU, and potentially the Red Hulk being a villain down the line. So
I've heard
all-
some interesting theories where he's actually putting together a Thunderbolts team, and that's why that's why they've been holding off showing some of the other stuff with Black Widow, because there's going to be some kind of tie-in. But That'd be interesting. You got Zemo, a couple other characters that could probably pop in there.
Yep, Zemo's definitely on that first Thunderbolts team there. Definitely wouldn't be like one of the later iterations when Red Hulk was leading the team, because that was a dope team. You had Venom, Flash Thompson, you had Ghost Rider on that team. No, that was a cool team. Elektra,
Yeah, that
Punisher.
scene was sick. It was a nice setup too.
Yeah.
So we know that the twins are basically growing up on their own. We know that Vision somehow, and this is what I was trying to tie into. So we have both the twins who are not being controlled by Wanda, it seems. And then we also have Vision, who seems completely self-aware now. He's able to investigate. We get the really terrifying scene with him and his coworker in the office as well, where he's able to clearly use some Mind Stone powers of some kind to set the guy free. And not sure how that's happening or where we're gonna fall on that. I think it's going to tie into how she brought Wanda back. I mean, brought Vision back, because it's not making sense to me how he has both the abilities and is able to do things without Wanda knowing that he's doing them.
That's the thing is how is Wanda not knowing when she's controlling the flow of the show? Like, shouldn't she be seeing his every move?
Yeah, and that's the part of the storyline that keeps me thinking that someone else is still manipulating something else inside the world, because there's moments in time where Wanda's eyes aren't seeing things, and we know the kids mention, mommy, it's Saturday. Why is Daddy at work? And she's like, well, he needed a little time away, because he's not falling in line right now with what I'm setting up for him. So we're just gonna create some work for him to distract him a little bit for a little while, which is completely nuts. But when you're manipulating everything else, I guess you can just be like, you know what, we're just gonna change the day. But just for
sure.
your dad and the role players around him, which is crazy. But that portion of it is where I'm like, okay. She also mentions that she doesn't know how she got there. Now, obviously, I don't believe that, but I do believe that maybe some part of this facade had changed a bit outside of itself, because we see how she manipulates the matter around her and the people around her. But there's also that moment from episode 3 where the neighbors and Agnes pop up, and they try and they try and warn Vision about what's going on. And you see two different things happening in real time in that moment. You have Agnes, who's trying to share to Vision that Monica's not one of them, which is very strange. If you're just a bystander who got pulled into this, why do you care what's happening to Monica right now? Like, you're saying that she doesn't have a home, she doesn't belong here. That's a really weird thing to say. And then the other neighbor is started off his sentence by saying, that you can't really say much else, but because they're all being and then blank. Now, what do you think he was going to say when he said they're all being in that situation? He didn't finish off his sentence, but he mentioned the Vision that they're all being, and then he got cut off and they left.
Harkening back to what you were saying earlier about her only controlling certain aspects of the town, I think there's got to be another player involved. She had to have made a deal with somebody to make this work the way that she wanted to, which is why everyone keeps speculating that, potentially it's Mephisto that she made this deal with, because that name keeps popping up. It keeps popping up. And even, I don't know if there's any truth to any of this or looking at it, but in this latest episode, in the commercial, the man who spills his beer, I was looking at his hair, and it was almost like kind of shaped in the way that Mephisto's hair is.
Oh, see, I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
look back.
It's like really, really subtle, right? So I don't know if that's anything to keep an eye on.
Yeah, see, there are some other moments too where Me personally, what I think he was saying is that they're all being watched. That
Mm.
there might be someone else. I mean, obviously, Wanda's watching some of the things that are happening, but maybe there's a bigger player who's watching how things play out as well. Because we have the stork that pops up that Wanda can't stop. We have Agnes, who's been kind of watching from the sidelines and involved in every single scene almost that involves the children in some way.
I think
Uh,
there's something that she's doing where she's able to watch. I know there's the quip, the sitcom quip of somebody showing up to progress the plot, right? And Vision thinks Wanda's like making it happen. Somebody's ringing the doorbell, right? But
yeah.
maybe it's actually she mentioned she's like, I have no idea every time. Maybe that is true, and it is Agatha like knowing when to, throw herself in there.
Yeah, it's that's the part that's Agatha or Agnes has been really shifting all over the place a bit, and I think that she's doing a phenomenal job as far as the actress goes. Who I also
Oh, for
loved
sure.
as Olivia Octavius in Spider Verse.
That's right. Yeah.
Really awesome role, but in my opinion, I can't tell if they didn't have any information about her on the wall with the other residents that were pulled up when Sora was doing an investigating and they were checking out all the people that showed up in the town.
Mm.
They didn't have a driver's license or any other info on Agnes
Yeah, and
on
they
that
showed it
wall.
again in this episode. If you look closely, she still didn't have a driver's license under her profile.
So that brings up two things to my attention. One is that we still don't know who the supposed witness and witness protection is in this
Oh, that's
situation.
right.
We do know that it can't be Agnes because they would have info if that was the case. So who's the target person who was hiding in this town or was placed in this town that we don't know anything about? What
Yeah,
if what if and why would Wanda choose this town out of everywhere that she could have gone to do this unless there was someone there that she was drawn to for some reason? I
very
do think there
true.
might be a chance that maybe Agnes is actually someone on the good side. Maybe Wanda went there for some help in a way, and then
Mhm.
lost control of the situation and dragged Agnes into it with her. That scenario might be plausible, but the thing that makes it strange is that it seems like Agnes has ways of pulling herself out of that role when she wants to, in a way. I can't tell
Right.
like if she's being fully controlled sometimes, or if she's just playing the part like she was in this episode.
Mm.
You didn't see any kind of hesitancy when she switched out of that situation. She's like, just take it from the top, and then we'll just do it again.
There's also the one little tidbit. I don't think there's anything to note really, but she did kind of pop up really weirdly from behind the bush, you know.
She
So, but it
pops up
went
really
straight
weirdly
into
in
like,
general, even for a sitcom character.
yeah,
Like she really seems to place herself into different positions at different times. And
right,
I think it's gotten to the point where Wanda trusts her as being part of that situation. Because if you look at kind of how things went down with Monica, if we have a town per se that has 3,500 people in it, but yet your scenarios in each generation of television is still revolving around the same like six people. Uh, it's like she's drawn to those people specifically,
right.
and like Monica mentioned, like you pulled me out of town, but you can tell I wasn't trying to hit you with those drones. It was just my asshole boss who was trying to shoot missiles at you and your children. I'm sorry that we pissed you off.
Right.
We've also established that Wanda is extremely scary. I wouldn't want to stare down Wanda when she's in full mother mode.
Yeah, I mean, they gave her that huge scene in Endgame where she single-handedly had Thanos down to his knee, so there's no telling what her potential is, especially when she's super upset.
Yeah, which of course, good old Jimmy brings up as well. I do like that they did the little comic book battle amongst the two in the room. Like,
Yeah,
just basically throwing it all out there. Well, she did kind of kick Thanos' ass, Don't forget about that part.
yeah,
Yeah, but then the Sokovia
absolutely.
Accords. Yeah, but she did kind of kick Thanos' ass, though. Like, it balances out a little bit. I do think that they seem to be kind of playing up both sides in a way. Like, yes, Monica still feels for Wanda, and it seems like the rest of the squad kind of feels for her too. So they
Hmm.
understand where she's coming from. They're definitely painting. Uh, I'm blanking on his name right now, but Mister Hit of Sword. They're really painting him as like the bad guy right now. Like he's got some ulterior motives because
Yeah, for sure.
he's extremely aggressive in situations where, um, if anything told you about the Avengers, why are you trying to piss someone off who you can tell now is clearly slightly delusional or at least not stable? The last thing I want to do is send in a missile of all things. Uh, if Do some kind of negotiating, maybe some talking. Maybe can we free some of the residents of the town? Do you need all
Right.
3,500 of them right now?
Right.
You're willing to risk like all of that for what? Because right now we don't know if killing Wanda would even release the town from what's happening. What if she dies and it's like a brainwave goes through and kills everyone
Yeah,
at this point? We
potentially.
don't we
Or
don't know what
again,
kind of
we.
thing is controlling these people at the town. Or we know it's painful. So what if she's reining that in to keep from having to control all of them at once?
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're gonna get one of those moments like you remember that movie Gamer with Gerard Butler.
Oh, and the dude from Dexter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you remember Michael C. Hall. You remember that
yeah,
scene
yeah.
where he had all the people under his control and they were like dancing around and stuff,
Okay.
and he had like a full on musical going on in the background with like all these people he could control their minds with. I think we're gonna get one of those scenes where like Wanda's gonna be like talking through other people at the same time before the show is over, where it's just a bunch of guys or like a bunch of neighbors pop up on some creepy like children of the corn stuff,
Oh,
and
sure. Yeah.
it's just Wanda talking through them at the
I
same
mean,
time because as
we
quick as she
already
was
had.
able to
We
whip
kind of.
those soldiers into control,
Hmm.
I don't think we've ever seen her power levels anywhere near that. Even with the Thanos situation,
No,
before
we
she had to
really
get up
haven't.
close to personal people and like touch them to get the kind of mind manipulation. And now she's just waving the entire line of soldiers like it's nothing.
Right. Just they all had their guns immediately drawn on the director there. It's wild.
And I'm assuming that when she put up the wall, um, or like force field or whatever that is, it's going to keep them from blowing back in.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's gotta be a third player. I feel like we've been saying because I can expect Wanda's powers to grow, but the amount of manipulation on that scale, the quickness of it, and the ability to kind of like reform these realities as quickly as she does, and
Hmm.
then the Vision situation, that all points to me like how did she bring him back?
Right.
So
Right.
now we can slide into the big reveal of the episode. Obviously, we have Evan Peters popping up with the full like Brooklyn accent. Sound like Raphael out here from Ninja Turtles.
The funniest part, it's funny. You mentioned Ninja Turtles, and they had that little cowabunga moment, earlier. I think that was funny. But what was interesting was like Dr. Lewis also being like, one of my favorite parts too is like, "Well, she recast Pietro." I thought that was funny.
The humor's been pretty spot on too. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just been pretty cool. Uh, and so, we mentioned some of the mentions of Fantastic Four and stuff like that earlier. But what are your theories about Pietro's role here? Do you think, like a lot of people were speculating on Twitter earlier and all over the place? Do you think that it's a different multiverse Pietro? Do you think it's someone being pulled into this world to play Pietro, and it's just Marvel kind of taking the lame way out, or do you think it's a situation where uh, she manipulated and brought Pietro back as a different character?
Well, she seemed very, very confused, and she did mention, "It's like, oh, this time this really wasn't me." So she wasn't expecting it either. So we don't know, who's behind this, right? But it also could be. I feel like this is almost like a curveball. This could be something where they just like throw it in there to throw everyone off the actual trail of what's actually happening. Because if they want to drop anything, alternate universe stuff, to me, it's like Quicksilver isn't the guy to be like that big reveal.
That's true. I do think that they still have something up their sleeve because we did see the interview with Elizabeth Olsen mentioning that there was going to be a Luke Skywalker type of reveal on the show. Mm. Do you think that was Pietro, or do you think it's still someone else that is bigger?
They have so many players now to choose from with all these properties coming in from Fox. It could be literally anyone, which makes it so much more exciting that we're just seeing, any character from the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. It could be anyone, man.
Yeah, I've been thinking about running down some what I've seen on Twitter, talking to folks, and other speculation. There's been some interesting names I've seen pop up. I've seen everything from a Professor X to a like a Magneto situation. I've seen Doctor Doom. Okay. I've seen Reed Richards has been mentioned because they need someone who might be able to do a bit more science type stuff going on here. Sure. And then of course we still bring Mephisto still brought up. Some folks say it might just be Doctor Strange. I feel like that's kind of a cop out, but we know that she's going to be in the next movie, so that could be a thing. I would be interested in seeing, like, if we're not going to go full out X-Men, and it's not, say, Doom, I'd be curious if, like, someone like Baron Mordo showed up. Like, if he would just pulled up, he's not going to be the Luke Skywalker character, but he would definitely be able to take advantage of the situation, I feel like. And he's also had 5 years of time to plot right now because he wasn't part of the snap. They confirmed that he's been running wild basically since the snap happened. He's been pulling up and grabbing artifacts from all over the multiverse.
Who is this again?
Baron Mordo.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
So since Doctor Strange 1, he's basically been grabbing more alliances and getting stronger in the meantime. Mm. While Strange is supposedly holding together, the multiverse and protecting the realms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's so much in play going forward, too, because you have this Doctor Strange movie that's supposed to throw in alternate universes and whatnot. And then you have the speculation. Well, it's not even spec anymore. We do know that Kang is supposed to be the villain in Ant-Man 3, right? So it's like there's all that play that they can have messing with time and reality with that character as well. So and
there's still Loki as well, which is supposed to be centering around a lot of time travel and all kind of shenanigans.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to go of it. I think that, man, it would be really cool if Pietro really is just like pulled from the other universe, like Deadpool, and someone else just snapped him in here, just like, like if that was like the way we open up the multiverse, and it's like, oh yeah, those X-Men exist, right? Because it is the 80s vibe.
That's right.
From the movie, the same casting. But I also do think that you might be right about it just being a a misdirect to distract folks enough for something else. We've also seen the episodes getting longer too. This
Sure,
episode was
sure.
definitely longer than the last four.
Was there a preview up already for the sixth episode?
I believe so. Yeah, there's a 6 episode promo. It actually, like he had mentioned earlier about her showing her at the sword base.
Okay.
There is a scene. There is a part of the promo where she's like leaping through glass or something in full costume, and there's like agents around her. So we might get that flashback you were talking about, where they show her at the sword base breaking in. Otherwise, if it's not a flashback, it's happening in real time, and that's even scarier.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I
But
didn't
yeah,
check
but it
that out
shows her
yet.
like flying through like a glass enclosure. It looked a
Okay.
lot like where she was born, basically.
Okay.
And she's like floating with her hands out, full hex mode in the scene. And then there's another portion of Vision with the Halloween costume on, um, and they show him zapping Agnes again, and
Oh, really?
yeah, he does the same mind thing on her,
Oh, wow. That's big.
but they don't say they don't show what she's saying though. They just show like she's like frozen before he zaps her, like
Gotcha.
she's waiting to do something.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what makes me think that she is somewhat controlled in the situation, but I don't think she is to the same extent all the time. I'm not sure if it's because Juan conditioned her so much that she just plays along without
I don't
having
know.
to be controlled.
I still think she's that key line to whoever the other big player is. She's that middle person.
Do you think that she's working with them or that she's being used by them?
That's tough to say. It can go either way, to be honest.
Yeah,
We don't know what her agenda is.
because it is when she's not. It comes back to me. I pay attention to really what Vision sees and how people act around Vision when Wanda's not around.
Hmm.
And it seems like that portion of it makes me seem like she's an accomplice because of how she talks to Vision when Wanda's not there, and how she
Yeah,
interacts with Wanda when they are together.
right.
Is
And the
all
fact
been
that Wanda
pushing
like
towards the
using all
children.
her powers in front of her nilly willy now, like it's nothing. Like, oh, don't worry about it.
Are you allowed the post Marvel theories here? I mean, yeah, sure. You can theorize.
Yeah, we'd love to hear them. Like anything that you know that I might not know, that Danny might not know. It's all fair game. There's so
Yeah,
much comic book history that I don't even know. Like I know a few things. Danny knows a few things, but there's certainly a lot I haven't touched up on, especially when you're talking about early, 70s, 80s Fantastic Four stuff.
yeah, and especially since Kevin was the one who pitched the show in the first place. Uh,
Right.
and I did watch a good interview about that. Good old Hector. He was talking with both Elizabeth and with Paul about the show and how it kind of started.
Hmm.
And he had mentioned Paul had mentioned that originally they had gotten a call from Kevin after they had shot the scenes for Endgame, so they had already known that Vision was dead at that point. And he had gotten called into the office. He thought that they were gonna basically like fire him. Like, okay, your role here is done. Like, you died. We're done with you. And he came in the room, and Kevin's like, I have an idea for a show. So imagine like, you know, thinking that your time as the character is over, and then the producer of the largest like franchise in history right now is like, we want to offer you a show where you get to actually play out these roles longer, and go on the straight up like House of M stuff.
Yeah, it's so cool to see Paul Bettany in this kind of role too. Like he's killing it. Speaking of House of M and getting the show together, I want to show you guys really quick. I thought this was really cool. I do have the 1 in 15 variant version for House of M
Ooh,
right here. So this is where the inspiration from the WandaVision comes from, Wanda whispering those words, "No more mutants." So we're kind of seeing if there's going to be any play with that. But another big one here is from 2014. This is Tom King writing
Nice.
this Vision miniseries. His book is getting a lot of spec right now. It's gaining some momentum. People want it, and they're tying in Vision wants a family, so he builds these other sentients, and he has twins himself. So there's a tie-in there with the two, the boy and the girl that he
Yeah.
just made. So that they're putting those two comics together is what kind of created WandaVision, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think that they've done a really good job of really pushing traffic back into exploring those characters, because I think that, to be honest, like Wanda and Vision haven't gotten the amount of screen time to really explore much of their relationship at all before the show.
Right.
You get a lot of flash forwards, and you have Civil War and then Avengers. They're like on the run to a certain extent, and then he gets hurt, so there's not really much time spent there. So we get this point in time now where it's like you're seeing that relationship play out more. But then there's the line that Vision drops in this episode where he's like, "I don't remember anything before Westview."
Very true.
Which is, I want to say that their relationship was maybe like this before what happened in Endgame, but now we don't even know, because if he has no memories before Westview at this point, that means he doesn't remember the Avengers. He doesn't remember, being born. He doesn't remember Ultron. He has none of that. So he's basically just built from what Wanda's told him so far.
Yeah.
And he clearly doesn't want to play along. Like, he's Wanda's been trying to skip and change and alter things, which was really cool when they brought in the the credits started coming down and they walked into the other room. That was such a cool shot.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so surreal. Like, I was like, oh man, this is really getting into some really meta stuff right now.
Yeah, breaking that fourth wall essentially.
Yeah, we saw him mad.
Which is funny too. In the previous episode, when she kicked Monica out, of how she went through 4 walls.
Really smart stuff.
Got out of the hex. There's little things like that you pay attention to and find, man. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, the production value has been really dope, especially how they've been changing the aspect ratios, when Wanda puts them back into that little box, basically in the TV, things just shifting. It's really well done.
You see it throughout this episode too, really, really closely, but you see different hues of red, right? And that's the same red that you see when she first comes out of the hex. So it seems as almost like she's trying hard to keep control over what's being broadcasted, but it's bleeding through that she's kind of losing a little bit of it.
And I'm wondering if, similar to, I'm going to bring up a movie that I didn't enjoy, but similar to Wonder Woman 84, where there's moments where Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord is kind of losing himself a bit by using the abilities. I wonder if we're going to get a situation where Wanda starts falling apart here from the strain, because it seems like even when she's fighting with Vision, she's still pretty casual about what's happening. There's not really a breakdown, oh my god, I can't handle all this right now. Do you think I'm really controlling 3,400 people in this town?
It's almost like an 11 situation in Stranger Things, where it becomes too much and her nose starts bleeding or something,
Yeah, which is, if there is a bigger player, I wonder if they've been able to amplify her powers in some way that are giving her an opportunity to really do this without having that kind of strain, or if it's a situation where this is kind of far out there, but what if Wanda herself was a projection and she's being held somewhere in a way?
That would be wild, but then how would she be able to do all that? That's what's interesting.
I mean, because if you still if her brain was still being parred while she's in captivity, and they just amped up her powers uh, to a scale where everyone inside the illusion is seeing things in that illusion.
Or, and get this is like going way out there. What if Sword themselves is actually behind it, trying to pin Wanda as this, bad guy villain that's doing this and controlling the townspeople because of what Sword stands for. I believe there's like another, what is it? Because they changed the name of Sword for the show as opposed to what it originally was, and I can't remember what the actual acronym is, but it led to believe that they're doing other operations or military operations. And somebody speculated that this could lead to other mutant things like the Weapon X program, right?
Oh yeah,
So
that'd be interesting.
yeah, so when you bring that into the fold, you're like, oh, okay, what's happening here? You can maybe think that Sword has more play in this.
There definitely seems to be something that's being left out there as far as the sword side of things goes, because we know that Monica doesn't have full access, and since her mom died,
She didn't from the get go. Like she wasn't able to even badge in, which is I
yeah.
thought was weird.
So it's like you're no longer at the same level that you were before you left. Your mom is gone, so everything you're being told is pretty much just hearsay, pretty much, because there's no way for you to fact check it.
Mm.
And they said that they're taking you out of the sky because obviously you came back from the blip or whatever. So we know there was some kind of space based missions at some point. We don't know if Carol was involved at all or if anyone else was involved in that kind of thing. But we know that those happened. And then he mentioned that they were shifting away from those kind of missions into bringing in more robotics and that kind of stuff. And
Right.
other investigations were going to be had later on. I think the sentient part of like the sword side, and let's focus on the space portion.
Mm.
I think that change was definitely on purpose to kind of lean more towards them being more into investigating other strange stuff instead of just being more space based. I think we're gonna get some kind of tie-in with Secret Invasion in some way because they're
Well, that's
really
a
upping up the
show that
sword.
they announced. They announced that as a Disney Plus show, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely Disney Plus. It's gonna be Nick Fury and I can't remember his name, Talos, I think. Yeah, the main scroll guy from Captain Marvel.
Oh, okay, okay.
They're both
I've
going to be
only
showing
actually
up again.
watched Captain Marvel once, so I'd have to give it another viewing. Maybe there's stuff to catch in that too, especially with Monica's character.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I'm not a big like Carol Danvers fan, and I don't think the movie really did the best for her character either. There's some cool Kree stuff in there, but I do think that it does a good job of giving you somewhere to go with Monica. At least like seeing the history of her mom. I kind of wish they had thrown a flashback in there or something for the
Mhm.
general audience, um, because you get the one picture, you know, and Maria Photon Rambo, which is cool. But I think a flashback would have helped draw that together. I think maybe they're trying to hold off that for people that aren't familiar, just so they can pop in Captain Marvel in an episode or two and just be like, "Oh yeah, here she is, guys."
That'd be interesting. Which is what we talked about earlier. I want to see why there's animosity between Rambo and Danvers.
Yeah, I gotta assume she never came back, and her mom was like, probably felt the same way about it in some way, and she's been chasing the stars ever since.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
clearly, like, I mean, there's more than just friendship going on there. I don't care what anybody says. I'm like, like Monica's mom and Carol had some other things going on there, man, and clearly it was a bad breakup or something.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's definitely a factor. Now there was an interview that Elizabeth and Paul did when the show was first coming out, in which they mentioned that the last like two episodes of the show are like full scale, like epic. Like they're Like, because people were complaining about the first two episodes so much that they're like, guys, this is Marvel, all right?
Yeah.
The last two episodes of the show, we're doing some things that we have never done before, and we're hitting things pretty heavy. I think I got to do something like I think Paul had mentioned how like some of the action he never got to do before in like Age of Ultron and stuff like that.
Okay.
So if you say something like that, I'm like, what if we get a full blown like Captain Marvel versus Wanda fight, and they're just like slinging it, just like going ham in
That changes
Westview,
the game.
and Vision's like in the middle.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't even think of like possibilities for like season finale sort of thing. But you got to know that they want to go ham on it. Even make it an hour or so too. Instead of like a short little 30-minute thing.
Yeah, I'm sure we're definitely getting a longer episode for sure. We're probably going to smack the credit scenes too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which was funny. Like I almost thought that in the first episode, you had 8 minutes of credits. So I thought they were going to throw something in there, and it was
They
just
really,
literally.
yeah, the credit run times have been kind of ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, like it's been a bit rough. You see like 33 minutes that ends up being a 24-minute episode.
Yeah, as a speculator, that's the first thing you look at when you start an episode of something. Like, how long is this, right? And you're like, all right, we got 33 minutes, 32, like maybe with a minute of credits. Like, no, there's like 7 minutes of credits.
Yeah, I think it's more noticeable because of how short the first few episodes were in comparison to like, say, Mandalorian or something like that, where like there's kind of like a set 45 to an hour somewhere in that range, and you might get like maybe a few 35-minute episodes mixed in there somewhere. But this one's been a lot more short term, and then the episodes have gotten a little bit longer from time to time. Episode 3 is a bit longer than the first two, and then 4 and 5. I think the Dead Vision reveal was kind of like their big pull in that
Right.
fourth episode that really kind of just hit everybody. So they were like, you know what, let's stretch it out a bit more in this third episode. I mean, this fifth episode. I think we've covered a lot of different stuff in the breakdown. I want to know, like, what do you think? As not having not seen the promo, which I mean, it shows some things, but naturally, we've been in the '80s, Family Ties, direct Family Ties callbacks. I'm assuming they're going to be mixing in like Roseanne and like Full House in the next episode, like just like some '90s vibes.
Well, so they already touched on Full House a little bit already with the picnic scene outside and them running
Yeah.
towards the camera. Those are like big Full House moments in the opening credits. Let's say Roseanne would be a good one. Then you got like maybe late '90s, right? You go into more like, I don't know, Friends, Frasier.
Because that would be really weird. Or Frasier would be really weird. Like, I
to
can see
think of,
Friends that
like,
you could toss in Agnes or whatever, but Frasier, that would be.
I can't think of anything like other like super '90s other than Roseanne or Family Matters or something.
Well, I
Fresh,
mean, super '90s would be like Fresh Prince, Cosby Show,
Saved by
like
the
Prosecutor just
Rest
said. Yeah,
to Dustin Diamond.
everyone loves Raymond. That's more like 2000s.
Yeah, that's late '90s. I was trying not to touch on like late '90s because then I was thinking, Will and Grace, Dharma and Greg, like that kind of stuff. But those aren't family oriented either.
Yeah. What do we got? The return of hanging with Mr. Cooper. Just bring that back real quick.
I'm like, are the boys going to be like 15-year-olds? The next time we see them, that's what I want to see.
That's why I'm thinking it's going to probably be a Roseanne situation because of like the teenagers.
Yeah.
Or it could. Well, that would be kind of a stretch though. They could be on the Seventh Heaven route.
Just have it.
Yeah, just. But I think we've got somewhere in that Roseanne Fresh Prince range, and then the following episode will definitely be like Modern Family or something. I think the facade's going to start falling apart there. Seinfeld, if I heard the Seinfeld like pop sound in this like in an episode of WandaVision, I would just lose my mind.
That'd be hilarious. That'd be great.
Let's go full Kirby and these guys while you're at it. Just
Oh,
break
goodness.
all the walls. But yeah, I think that the rundown, from what I could tell with the promos and then what they've been showing before, they've been showing a lot of. I don't know if you've seen anything on TV lately, but especially of like the basketball games and stuff like that. They've been rolling out a new WandaVision promo pretty constantly, showing off stuff from episode 4 or beyond,
Okay.
because I guess to kind of draw people in who weren't really paying attention to the first half. So they show like, oh yeah, so there's two Avengers in a sitcom, and they like have that whole scene like cut up in the different promos on TV right now. So there's like bits and pieces of that showing on screen, and like Wanda flying around and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I think like we're gonna probably get maybe we'll get something at the Super Bowl tomorrow, um, and maybe I'm hoping for some movie stuff. But I think the more likely situation would be Falcon Winter Soldier
Dude,
trailer.
I totally forgot about how trailers could drop tomorrow for the Super Bowl. Yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah, tomorrow is a big trailer day.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll probably get some King Kong and Godzilla. Yeah, what's that, Riri? The one and only. How you doing? Yeah, we'll probably get some of that in there. We'll probably get now people have been really hoping for like a Spider-Man reveal or something like that. Yo, yo, Riri, thank you for the sub coming through. I appreciate it. We give Vaughn a shout out here. Pretty well at it. But you guys show Vaughn some love.
Yeah, and the name underneath the camera is wrong. There can be only Vaughn. So
Yeah, I gotta swap that again too.
hope there's no confusion. But yeah, so next up though, as far as Marvel properties are concerned, is that Falcon and Winter Soldier show, right?
Yeah, it's actually 2 weeks
there's
after WandaVision ends.
Oh, interesting. Okay, but so how far back did they push that Black Widow movie?
To be honest, I'm worried about that situation at this point because the date currently is still set for May, but obviously the pandemic has not really got any better.
Right.
And from what I've heard, the execs so far have been there's been infighting within Marvel about releasing that film on Disney Plus. The old guard is really trying to stick to the theater release, and the new guard is like just put it on Disney Plus. We'll sell like hotcakes. We got 2 MCU shows dropping before it to bring in the subscription base.
So do they have any numbers to bounce off of how HBO Max did with 1984 with Wonder Woman?
I don't know if they've shared that. I know that Soul was definitely a huge one for them.
Okay.
And that release was big, but Soul also didn't have to pay the premium access though. It was just part of the subscription.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
if they were to release, say, Black Widow, it would definitely probably be premium access, and it'd be
Right.
like $30 for the ticket. I think that's high. I think that if they really wanted to sell, they should be selling it around 20, which would be the cost of about 2 tickets.
Okay.
And because you have to keep in mind that you're still paying a subscription on top of the fee, so
Right.
it's not the same as paying for a VOD. You have to buy the subscription first to Disney Plus, and then pay additional for a Black Widow on top of that. Which obviously for most MCU fans is really a big deal because we have so much content streaming out now. But it is a factor, which is why it's looking pretty rough. Because if they don't go the Disney Plus route, they'd have to push the movies back again, which would throw off the entire slate, the entire schedule.
Right.
Because they're so committed to this movie coming first for some reason. So there must be some major spoilers
Sure.
that they keep shifting the entire lineup to make this movie first.
Yeah, because they're definitely going to lose out on so much money if they don't put it on the theaters. But what are you going to do, right? I mean, it's everyone's taking the loss. everywhere. So it's like, hey, your best bet is to try to do something with Disney Plus.
I would understand if it was a Avengers scale event, or even if it was like a Doctor Strange 2, right? Or something like Spider Man, where like you want to reckon all that theater money. But
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow, at this point, I'm like, are we really doing numbers like that with this character? Um, is it really gonna sell? Because I think it had it been last year, and there weren't any MCU shows slated out and planned. I don't know, man. Like, because I think that it actually has kind of hurt them as far as the theater options go, because people have gotten a little bit of that thirst for Marvel
Right.
quenched by having these shows come out. So you've got WandaVision. 2 weeks after WandaVision ends, you have Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then right before, no, 2 weeks after Black Widow drops, you got Loki. Then you got Eternals. Then you got Spider-Man 3. So there's not really that much downtime on top of the Star Wars stuff,
You think darkness is your ally?
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for the host, Riri. I'll give you a shout out here too. You just excited for the multiverse? Yeah, we've been bringing down some of the multiverse stuff too. I think that there's a few different ways to go with the multiverse right now. We were talking about adding in the X-Men and those kind of things too, and how important like some of the characters from like the Fantastic Four might be able to get pulled in. I would be interested in seeing maybe like Reed Richards show up in like in Ant-Man 3 maybe. I think the weird thing to me is like how do you introduce these characters without like making people wonder where they've been the entire time.
Darkness is your ally.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that the entire time. Whoops.
But for me, WandaVision is going to have a pretty epic conclusion, right? But we already confirmed that Wanda will be showing up in Doctor Strange 2. It's already been confirmed by Kevin Feige. They did the investor meeting, and they had the video showing that she was joining the movie in the big presentation. It was Wanda. It was Baron Mordo returning, and of course Benedict Cumberbatch and Wong are all confirmed for that film. We don't know who the villain is. They didn't announce the villain like they did Thor with Christian Bale. But there's got to be some kind of continuation here, which makes me wonder: are we going to end WandaVision with no direct conclusion? Would they risk pissing off the general viewer by not concluding the story in WandaVision and dragging it out into Doctor Strange 2, which doesn't come until next year?
That's a tough play, man. They've always been about their Easter eggs, though. So they're probably going to keep everyone in suspense as to who that opening up that wormhole into those Fox properties, man. I really believe that's the play there, is trying to introduce the Fantastic Four first. The X-Men, I think, isn't as much of a play.
Yeah,
For whatever, just because there's so many ties to the Fantastic Four right now.
that's true. I honestly think that X-Men's probably a good 4 to 5 years off, to be honest. There's been rumors of like characters like Beast showing up in like an Agents of S.W.O.R.D. situation or something.
Yeah, I think if with Sword and with just the Avengers tie-in, like I said earlier, House of M was a Astonishing X-Men and New Avengers tie-in. So you got to think of those New Avengers X-Men that were part of that team. So it's people that they absolutely have to throw in first. You're talking about a Beast like you mentioned. Wolverine was a big part of that team. So
Yeah, I've been thinking like we're like, man, it's tough because you get like even one X-Man in fully, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to kind of break down everything else after that, unless you
Yeah,
pull
that's
directly
true.
from the multiverse, because you have to explain mutants at some point, which they couldn't use before at all, because Fox had the rights to the word mutant, so they couldn't say the word mutant in any of the films.
Right. Which is why they had Scarlet Witch and um, Quicksilver come into Age of Ultron. Boo,
Yeah.
as Avengers. I mean, they could do that because they did they spent probably more time as Avengers than they did or known as X-Men or whatever. So
Yeah. Whedon was really trying to get Quicksilver in before Fox took advantage of him, because
right.
there was a weird loophole in the contracts for who had the rights to the characters, since they were both valid Avengers members and X-Men. So
Mhm.
both companies could use the characters, and
Yeah,
Whedon got wind of that and was like, "I want him in first," and tossed him
that's
into Avengers too.
as a comic book fan, that 2-year period or wherever where they were doing that was awful because they had to. Marvel themselves they were pushing the Inhumans as this next big thing, and it just like kind of crumbled.
Yeah, and Humans
All you
was,
had
ugh.
was more Inhuman stuff and less X-Men stuff.
Yeah, it was a big push for that too.
And
Which,
it,
I
and it
mean,
trickled
Inhumans have
into
really fallen
other-
off the map completely. Which
Yeah.
actually, big brain theory. What if they tied Inhumans into some of this stuff again? There's a lot of Inhumans that actually do have some abilities that make sense in this world.
I mean, they
right
really
now.
could, and they have to play with Kamala. Kamala is Inhuman, so they want to push that show. So you never know. There's so many different avenues that they can pull from.
Well, to answer the question that I asked you earlier about whether I think that that Marvel's willing to bet it all and not conclude the show with a resolution, to tie Wanda into Doctor Strange 2. I think that it comes down to if there's a second antagonist. If it's just big bad Wanda, I don't think they would take that kind of risk in this show.
They wouldn't need to. They wouldn't need to. They have their number one villain, right?
Yeah.
And you can't use sorry to throw DC under the bus, but you can't throw 3 big villains into one movie and expect to give them the amount of time that they deserve.
And we know that Doctor Strange 2 is called the Multiverse of Madness, correct? So we have 2 key words there, multiverse, and we have madness. So, I mean, the multiverse itself isn't exactly crazy, from what I've been told. It exists. We've seen it in different forms already so far. But the madness portion is what makes me curious as to whether it's a situation where the events of this show break Wanda beyond recovery. And it puts people in a situation where they have to question whether they can save Wanda or not, or kill her. And the only person who's willing to make that kind of sacrifice, as far as maybe trying to pull her back, would be someone like a Doctor Strange, who has the ability to kind of step in and look for alternative ways to help her.
Or maybe that's where that you pull those characters in. You bring in the X-Men, you bring in the Magneto, or revive or pull the actual whoever. I don't know what's going on with Evan Peters Quicksilver, but pull Quicksilver, somebody to bring her back to her conscience and think rationally.
I mean, since we've seen her manipulate both the matter and people's minds, what if she is subconsciously bringing in these characters and it's not someone else? If she's pulling them
that's
because
a possibility too, man.
because
I was thinking about it too. Like she could create herself. She could create that multiverse.
that's true. Because she does still have ties to the Mind Stone, which to give her an open window to other places. And if she can't get the material for Quicksilver from our reality, and she pulls it from somewhere else, that would be interesting. If she just freaks up the universe, and by pulling other things in, splits things open, and then we have 3 tie-ins, right? And hi, Novocaine. How you doing? We've got this film. We have Doctor Strange 2, and then we got Spider-Man 3, which we've confirmed there's clearly some multiverse stuff going on. And I believe that Doctor Strange has been like confirmed for that too at some point, or at some portion of the film. So they're probably building this epic three film scale of multiverse stuff. And Tom Holland just got the internet just completely like freaking out because he said the other day that like Spider-Man 3 is like the most epic thing he's ever seen, basically, as far as like scale.
Sure.
And he said it was the most epic standalone superhero film he's been involved in, and that he's seen in existence so far. So that's some pretty steep words to say when we've had 20 films at this point in time.
I know, and thinking to how epic Endgame was with every single one of those characters in that movie, like how are you going to top that? And he's talking about topping that, so.
It's kind of it's pretty exciting. But I think we've covered everything. I do think that when it comes to Wanda, if there is a second antagonist, she's gonna break by the end of this show, and her and Vision are gonna have a really bad fallout scene.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I forgot to mention in that episode 6 promo, which I'm not sure if it's actually from episode 6, it'd be interesting it is. There's a scene of Vision trying to break through the wall in the promo.
Oh, interesting. Getting out of the hex or whatever?
Yeah, there's a scene of him trying to like split it open at some point.
Interesting.
Now, since we've seen things stay manipulated once they leave the hex, if Vision is a corpse, will he stay the same outside of the hex in the situation, or will he just...
He just crumbles as soon as he leaves?
Well, okay, so here's the thing, all right? You have this scene of him opening the wall, but in the original promo for the show, but when it was first coming out, there's a scene of him falling to his knees at night.
That's right. I've seen that.
So if he comes through the portal and then falls instantly afterwards because there's a change happening there, I wonder what would happen. I wonder if it would be a situation where Vision becomes an asset that Sword captures, and then Wanda breaks in to stop them. Because
oh goodness,
because the promo showed her at the Sword base as well in the same promo, flying through the glass. So I'd be curious to see if they're like, you know what, the asset has been secured, and Wanda's like, no, it hasn't. That'd be interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Oh, you know what? There was one thing that we touched on at the very beginning that I wanted to ask you again was the commercial.
Oh, yeah. With Lagos.
Yeah, so I'm still behind and not quite remembering what that is. So maybe you can explain it to me.
Yeah, so in the commercial they showed in this episode, there's clearly a spill. A red spill, of course.
Right.
And you see it's got the Lagos as the name of the company. Lagos was the mission they were on in Civil War, where she accidentally blew up the building full of people.
Okay.
And so it cleverly is like, sometimes you have to clean up messes that you didn't mean. So clearly some part of Wanda's subconscious is still feeling guilty about what happened in Lagos.
Okay.
Because she put this commercial together about cleaning up messes that she didn't mean to happen, and that was pretty clever. Especially it being a red spill because there's blood on her hands and all kind of stuff going on there. So I think, and that's the part that makes me still empathize with Wanda, because I do think that there's still parts of her that really resent what happened, and she feels guilty about what happened, which is why it's strange seeing like that same person who was so resentful and empathetic about what happened in Lagos originally, and the Wakandan representatives and all that kind of stuff. And now she's like, "Oh, this town in excruciating pain as I mind control them. I don't care. We're gonna go back to back to the break. Play my intro music and strolls back in with little Billy.
Sure.
It's just it's really strange. It's like seeing character from point A to point B. You know, it's
Right.
it's a little wild.
Yeah. But then, you mentioned in an earlier episode how Dr. Lewis she had watched all these different episodes as well. So there's all this other context that we don't get what Wanda's manipulating.
Yeah, especially since she's controlling things. You know, she's showing what's on the broadcast. She's editing it in real time. She's skipping things out. Nor says grief does messed up stuff. I think that's her arc. Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean grief does make you do some crazy things. You know, in situations where like you can't. Wanda clearly can't accept things the way they are.
Yeah.
We've established that much. Even when Vision is straight up telling her, he can't accept it. But it still feels a little hokey for if her arc is just going to be her going crazy. Because even in House of M, to a certain extent, she's kind of like a background character after the events start. In a way,
Yeah, she basically disappears.
Like there's not really.
No
You know, I don't think that they want to go that route with her character in this situation. You know, where she's put into the background. It doesn't seem like it would be right for what the show is. So I think that they're gonna have some kind of second ulterior antagonist in some way. I don't think Wanda's completely being controlled. I don't think it's a situation where she's like not in her right mind, and someone else is just manipulating everything. I think that clearly part of this is Wanda, and as part of her grief is definitely a factor. But I think there's also someone else who's coaxing some of this stuff out and amplifying it in some way, because the scale was, and then to be fair, like the hit of a shield or a sword, it said she did have a bad reputation for a little bit at the beginning of her origin stories here, because she was manipulating the Avengers in Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Before she turned on the side of good. She was, playing with their minds in different ways. So we've seen her turn kind of good, but really, if you think about it, outside of what Endgame, I guess Infinity War, she's there for a little bit. Civil War, she didn't trust any of them. So there's not really that much of a connection to her on the good side when I think about it, outside of her feeling really bad about what happened to the Lagos.
Right.
She didn't trust with anyone. They sent Vision there to kind of guard her in that movie, and then eventually, I guess off screen, they get more connected and fall in love and stuff like that.
Right.
But
it was basically the caretaker and to keep her, roped in.
yeah, like with Vision gone, who's really reining her in, and is she really on the team? When you think about it, because it was really just Vision and Cap.
Right. We mentioned this, when she got snapped back, nobody was there. And
no one's there.
She got snapped back to the moment where she was crying over her dead husband.
The one that she had to kill herself, by the way, and then was brought back in front of her just to die again.
Right, exactly. So you got all that grief jumbled up, and it's a lot of damage there.
Yeah, it's a lot of So what we should have been doing, what the Avengers need is a good therapy program. They should have. You should have after every mission, you should have a mandatory briefing and therapy session. A nice rundown, because clearly between her and Tony, they just need some serious talking to after briefings. Right, but I think that's all I got. I got no more questions. I think we did a solid breakdown of this episode.
Yeah, we touched up on a lot of things, man. It was a lot of fun. and so much more speculation abound, right? We had the preview that I'm immediately going to watch after this, so I can see what's happening, and then you know, what's hey, who's Quicksilver? Who's this guy? Is he just a manifestation of her mind, or somebody else playing tricks on her? Who knows?
Nor says that, did I see the quasar symbol in the force field? I did not see that.
There's a really when she was coming out or when she was going back in. Because I was definitely like trying to pay attention. I absolutely watched the episode again right before we started this to catch some more things, but I didn't see that. When she's walking back in, you can see it.
That'd be interesting. Quasar is definitely a character that I don't think you really see mentioned very much.
Yeah, you have
nowadays.
so many more things that you can do with the space aspect of the Marvel universe, right? You know, Carol Danvers is up there. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 can introduce all these guys too. So he might be in Guardians 3. You know, yeah. There's so many big players you can still add in there. And then we still don't have the payoff for Adam Warlock, you know.
Yeah, the Adam Warlock situation, which, I mean, the Soul Stone. That'd be interesting if that was in play in some way.
Yeah, true.
Because there's definitely some stuff tied to that. And, you know, there's one character I didn't bring up that I had in my notes, and that is Wonder Man.
Oh,
Uh,
big time Avengers play right there. Yeah.
like Wonder Man, because we've been trying to figure out how Vision is back. What if there's some ties there to a different character? You know, what if Wonder Man is the person to win this protection? What if
Man.
Wanda found out and she found the way to take his essence and reformat it, because we've established you need the material,
Right.
and put it to work in our boy Vision, and some stuff went haywire, and she had to cover it up by taking over the town. Yeah, she had Vision's body, but Vision's body doesn't have a soul and doesn't have a stone.
Yeah, so how did that happen? Like, why is Vision alive inside Westview?
Not only is he alive, but he's also not under Wanda's control. Even though she does allude to being able to control him at one point in this episode, when she's like, he's like, "You can't make me do anything." And she's like, "Can I? Can I though? I mean,"
Right.
but he had the power to free his friends from the mind control, which is something that you can usually do with the Mind Stone. So either Wanda pulled the Mind Stone from a different universe, the same way that Tony and friends did, to bring him back to life, but without the full knowledge of what was going on beforehand.
Okay.
Or she used someone else, and there's someone bigger that's tying it in to bring the rest in. If we got to see what happens with Evan Peters. If Evan Peters is Quicksilver from a different multiverse, a Fox tie-in X-Men multiverse, then the same person could pull in what's needed for Vision to come back alive.
Yep.
So he's going to be a key character in the situation.
That and I still think that Agnes is that tether.
Yeah, Agnes is definitely going to be a reveal for Agnes. I'm not sure how far back we're going to be going. I'm not sure if we're going to be going full, because someone did mention that she could be. I'm not blanking on her name right now. She might be tied to Strange. I can't remember her name. Is it Clea? Strange is the one sorceress who's not evil. She's kind of in between. I want to say I think it's Clea or something like that. I'm blanking on her full name, but she has like she's known for being like the person who collects a bunch of relics and stuff like that. And she's also like tied to Agatha and a few other characters. I can't think of a major storyline she's been in recently, but I just remember her in the I remember her popping up in the old Spider-Man cartoon, and she was like uh, in Doctor Strange episodes. It was her, Baron Mordo, and Strange.
Huh. Yeah.
I'm really happy you found this channel. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed your time here. Make sure you show Vaughn some love as well. We'll drop him another link in here in a moment here. Vaughn, flash the comments for the camera. So thank you for
Oh
the
yeah.
sub.
Well, earlier we talked about. Oh, go ahead, Diddy.
Yo, salute to you for the sub hype. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. And welcome on in with the Rapscallion Club. Salute. Let me give Vaughn a shout out here. Make sure you check him out.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, a little plug here. So if you guys don't already know, I'm a huge comic book fan. 11 years ago, I ran my own comic book store in Augusta, Georgia. So I have a slew of comics. Half of the store kind of came with me. So I'm stuck with long boxes after long boxes. But it's really cool because I can show you guys some of the key books that this show is pulled from. So again, we showed these earlier, but the first one here, House of M. This is a variant done by Joe Quesada, who is editor-in-chief over at Marvel. Drew this great cover of Wanda for House of M. So of course, in that storyline, Wanda famously whispered the words "No more mutants." It was a big deal for years, and then changed the landscape for the X-Men. And then another one, of course, The Vision by Tom King. This is Vision starting his own family. So, a good cue as to where they got the inspiration for WandaVision based on that book alone. And another one I want to show you guys, I thought that was cool and a tie-in for this month for, Black History Month here. This is Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man annual number 16. I'll show you guys a special spec book here, key issue, the very first appearance of Monica Rambeau, who
that
is,
flex.
of course, a big time player in this show. So check
I really
that
want to
out.
see how they pull off her costume. Like, give it a nice revamp.
Well, I'm sure that they're going to go with her Mighty Avengers look when she joined that team with, or the Ultimates, right? With Blue Marvel,
jacket?
Luke Cage, and be Spectrum. I don't think she's going to, there's hints for, or her mother is going to keep the Photon name. I think she's going to go with Spectrum.
I think so too. Then again, maybe there'll be some beef. Maybe we should be like, I'm Captain Marvel now.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
It could be. Because we already, Captain Marvel with you is confirmed.
That's right.
And they have the same director, who I'm actually really excited about. Nia DaCosta is directing Captain Marvel 2, who is also the director for the new Candyman reboot that's coming out.
Awesome.
So she got the role, and the big part of that was because they wanted someone who could really pull off Monica in that film. So I think we're gonna get some definitely some bigger stuff for Monica coming up.
That's great. Yeah, she's a wonderful character too. I'm glad that she's like in the forefront as well.
Yeah, and that's part of Kevin's pitch too, apparently. So he's been thinking a long game. You thought she would name herself Photon in honor of her mom? I think Spectrum makes more sense. It rings off the tongue a bit more to me. I think Photon's more of a like
part of it. Like, do you want to give her own thing? Again, they've already established that Photon was her mother's nickname, so there can be obviously homage to it, but Spectrum is what she's known as now in the comics, and it just makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to kind of I think find and search for as well, compared to like something like Photon. Yeah. Thanks for flexing and showing off your comics.
Yeah, these are like the
quick
ones that I could find. I had a couple other covers that I really wanted to show of Scarlet Witch, but they're not really tie into the show. They were just like really cool covers of her and Vision. Of course, there's 2 miniseries that they did for Scarlet Witch and Vision. The first one, Volume 1, was a 12-issue miniseries, and they also did a 6-issue miniseries back in the 80s. So if you guys are comic book collectors, those are going to go up in price, and I guarantee you, if you go to your LCS, your local comic stores, You can probably find them in dollar bins still, and they're just spec items. Everyone lately has been talking about the GME and the AMC stocks, but
To
2020
the
was also a
moon.
year where comic books surged too. So there's a lot of speculation in the secondary market with comics, and it's a fun hobby to invest into.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely have been collecting a few different books, but I have not been really touching Wanda and Vision. But clearly,
Yeah,
there's some big moments in those books. I really,
absolutely.
after watching this episode and watching the last episode, and kind of seeing this happiness factor between the two characters. I really hope that there's a portion of time where they get to be happy at some point, because ever since you had both characters introduced, they've really had some tragic moments. But it seems like they also have not gotten uh, any rest or freedom uh, since being introduced. I mean, Vision's going through all kinds of weird stuff, being the one who basically handicaps Rhodey
Right.
in that situation, and then going into a situation where you know you're getting your face ripped off by Thanos, and, and Wanda's going through it too. It's like, man, can anyone get some happiness going here? Is besides Cap living back in 1942? It's
Man,
rough.
yeah.
Like the Avengers have been through it. Tony's dead.
I think
Hawkeye
the
is
only
pretty
one,
much the only one I
that's
think who's
probably
having a
happy
decent
right
family
now,
life.
the only one that's probably happy right now is Ant-Man because he's got his daughter and
Yeah,
Wasp.
like it's rough, and I do want to mention that I mentioned before when we did a recap for last week, but Kevin did mention that after kind of what's been happening with the pandemic and how it's kind of had different impacts on the industry.
Mhm.
Originally, when Spider-Man Far From Home was shot, he really wanted to get away from the blip and everything that involved the blip quickly, which is why there's such a big jump in time. So I think Spider-Man 2 is about 8 months after Endgame.
Okay.
So he said that because of he had a change of mind basically, and he said that he wants to focus on how the blip has impacted different parts of the MCU and other shows and properties that are going moving forward because of the impact that the pandemic has had. He thinks there's a lot of relation there between COVID-19 and this situation, and kind of if you were to recover from losing loved ones for 5 years, they just show up again,
Right.
or losing a husband for 5 years and then suddenly they're back again and you're already remarried. So that'd be extremely awkward.
The weird things are like you're probably in bed with your new significant other and your husband blips like right in front of the bed or something.
That would be terrible. And terrifying.
I liked how they did it in Spider-Man though. It was so funny. Like they're playing the basketball game and then the band blips back and the kid runs into the kid with the tuba or whatever.
There's some really cool opportunities. I think one of them might be She-Hulk. I think imagine the crazy liability suits and weird legal stuff going on.
Oh man, that's so perfect, dude.
Yeah, there would be so many interesting scenarios you could get out of that. It'd be crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it was interesting to see that they put that scene into episode 4. That everyone has been going. They've really loved and enjoyed seeing that element of the blip and everything else show up again.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. But I thought it was interesting to see that. I didn't know that Kevin had mentioned that he didn't want to see as much of that kind of tie-in. And I'm like, this is a major scale event to kind of skip over moving forward. So I'm glad I'm glad he changed his mind and decided to kind of put more of that stuff in. So he said that WandaVision, part of when they changed how WandaVision was going to work, part of it was that scene. Because originally the show was supposed to be, I think, 6 episodes, and then because of the pandemic, they got 9. and they had more time to rework kind of some of that situation and get more backstory for Monica through that way. So, in a way, the pandemic had an influence on the show, uh, and adding that scene that people liked apparently, which is
Nice.
kind of
That's
cool.
really cool. That's really cool behind the scenes sort of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think we covered everything. Thank you again for being here. I'm gonna try to do the same thing next week if possible.
Yeah, sure, man. I should be available. This was a lot of fun, and I'm always down, always down to talk comic book.
Yeah, and you know maybe we can keep it rolling because again we got those 2 weeks of downtime before they pop right into Winter Soldier, and
Yeah, and we can talk about that too.
and apparently from what I've heard, like those episodes might be longer too, in comparison to
Yeah,
WandaVision. So
it's supposed to be like more of like a, how they used to do those mini TV events where it's like an hour and a half long. So like when you watch the whole thing together, it's like a full length movie or something.
now for something that's non-Marvel related, I'm curious, Vaughn. I want to know. You know, me and Grogu want to know. I'm gonna bring Grogu on screen real quick. We want to know: are you going to be watching the Snyder Cut? because the Snyder Cut is coming out around the same time as Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's they just released a release date for March, I believe March 18th, I think. So basically the same weekend that Falcon and Winter Soldier is dropping. They're dropping the Snyder Cut.
As a huge comic book guy, it's almost like I have to, right? And the thing is, the reason why I want to watch it too is because I've actually only seen Justice League once, so it would be kind of cool for me to jump back into it and see why there's such a significant difference with it and what they can do, because it seems like there's so much spec going forward with the extra additions that they're going to do with DC properties, But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's interesting. It's coming at an interesting time because DC is in limbo in the comic book world. We don't know if they're going to continue doing DC published books with the AO or the merger that they just had.
Yeah, it's kind of scary right now. I'm not gonna lie, because AT&T is so they're just so knee jerk reactionary, and they really don't care about that side of the business at all.
It's so weird, man, because like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman just sell. They are the top sellers. You make so much money off of those properties.
Yeah, but I think that is similar to, because I've heard someone mention this before. I think it might have been Hector Gutierrez, but they mentioned similar things of how they treat Batman, as far as like movie properties, is similar to how Sony treats Spider-Man. In which case, they see Batman the same way they see a James Bond, where they don't think about the comic book relevancy or like the tie-ins or the history and lore. They think about him as a character that can be rebooted and resold, because he's an icon. And the thing of it is just like we have this character, and we can throw different actors in there, and it sells. They don't like think about anything else that's tied to the character or the history there. It's just like he's like a Bond to them. It's like we can just throw anyone in that role, give him a good villain, and it's a franchise that we just recycle over and over again because they like the Joker, they like the same characters. Let's just do it again.
Like at the end of the day, if something does happen where I don't think it will. I think there's too much at stake for comics, for DC to do their own thing. But if it happens to be that they're not going to, Marvel's going to swoop in. They're going to save those franchises, and if that happens, it's almost like a Big Bang event, man. That would be
Yeah, that would. I don't think there would be any. There'd be books written about that. That'd be history in every sense of the word. I do think that, from what I heard, originally Snyder Cut was supposed to be episodic, but
right now it's not.
now he's saying he wants to just make it. He just wants to release it as a 4.5 hour movie, so it has a theater release. There's no way in hell. I'm just there's no way in
Absolutely.
hell I'm gonna like. I'm not gonna go see it in theaters, but 4.5 hours. I don't even think I did that for Lord of the Rings extended edition. I'm pretty sure that was a good at least 3.5.
Right.
The 4, but man, I'm thinking about having a watch party for it, but I don't know if I can pull off the 4.5 hours, man.
There has to be a break in between.
That's a bit too steep for me, even if it actually ends up being good.
Yeah.
That's asking a lot from the audience. I feel like, in every way, shape, and form, I can't.
I don't
So
know why
maybe
they
we do
went
like
back
maybe
on
we do
that
like
because
two
the
parters. Like
episodic thing was such a good idea.
I really like the episodic idea. I thought that would be really cool because then you could talk about it every week. Like if you released like one portion week to week, or
Mhm.
maybe two at a time,
Mhm.
two, then one in the finale. But if folks like binge do it in one weekend, and you still got a fucking Winter Soldier dropping every week,
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
gonna stop talking
Remember.
about it pretty quickly. I'm just I'm just saying. 2 hours break, eat, then another 2 hours. I mean, I might watch this. I might watch the same weekend. I don't know about the same day.
Yeah,
Depends on
it's
how I'm
definitely
feeling.
happening the same day.
Yeah, Conda Wolfman. That's an interesting name. Thanks for the follow. All right, well, that's all I got. Thank you again, guys. So we're gonna wrap it up here, but make sure you show Vaughn some love.
Yeah, you
He's
guys,
always does cool
I'm also
stuff.
on Twitch here. There can be only Vaughn. You can find me there, and on YouTube where I post comic book material every single week for my pull list. So you guys, if you want more comic talk, you can definitely find that there. Same name over on Instagram as well, posting photos of all my comic book hauls, and over
Yeah.
on Twitter as Vaughn on Twitch. And shout out to Denny again. Thank you so much for having me on this, man. It was a pleasure talking to you about WandaVision and all things speculation going forward, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course, and thank you as well for joining me. Also, make sure you guys check out Vaughn's Instagram, like you mentioned before. You get some quality squat content there. All right,
Not at the
some
moment,
solid
man.
some
I'm
solid
recovering from
flexing.
that knee surgery.
But yeah, Vaughn's an awesome guy, and of course, gaming content. But before we end, I'm gonna give you another little plug. All right, tell the people about what you do with the games, because obviously you're a big achievement hunter. But I know you've had some interesting goals over the years for how many games you complete.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just being a collector in general, man. I like collecting. I'm still a physical guy, hashtag physical forever. So PS4, PS5 content found on the channel. I go for platinum trophies, so you will see every single game that I play be completed 100%. So that's always the goal each and every time. So if you guys like that, you guys like variety gaming, you're going to see everything from indies to AAA to fighting games, you name it. It'll be there on the channel.
All right. Well, make sure you guys check out Vaughn. Show him some love. I'll make sure to also drop some links on the Twitters and all that jazz as well. And when I'm editing some clips up for this. But all right.
Awesome, man.
See you all later. Thanks for joining us. Let's switch it up here with the screens.
Sounds good, Danny. Hey, take care, man.
See ya.